You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something.
Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today's topic is on your quarter life crisis, why it's so common, and what's actually going on in your head, decisions, and life. This episode idea came about after talking to one of my friends who just turned 25. Actually, the day I'm recording it is his 25th birthday. And it was like, yeah, so I'm going to go back to school and get another bachelor's degree. And we joked about this decision being part of his quarter life crisis, to which I responded with, hey, on my 25th birthday, I handed in the keys to my corporate job and moved to Charlotte the very next day. There's just something about your mid-20s that gives you the itch to say fuck it and do something different. So I wanted to create an episode around why this happens to so many mid-20-somethings and whether or not you should lean into this seemingly impulsive decision to uproot your current life for your new reality. And actually, the term quarter life crisis doesn't even just mean when you're 25 years old. It's a range. It's from 18 to 30, and it's sparked by major life transitions and the responsibility to make your own decisions for the first time ever. And with it comes all of your peers venturing off onto different paths, constantly giving you this false feedback that you're behind or aren't doing enough, as well as this newfound independence of learning who you are outside of your parents' direct influence. Now, social media definitely doesn't help with this, since you're just seeing snippets of what people are doing and you don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes. So your brain is left to fill in the blanks that lead you to want to also change course and try something different. Or similarly, you falsely determine that everyone your age has their shit figured out and you're over here floundering. This is basically what my TEDx talk was about, which you can go check out in the show notes if you haven't already watched it, or go on YouTube and type, "You're not special, you're just adulting." I'm sure it'll come up, because no one is talking about their experiences. So we're all facing the same struggles, or not doing enough, or not being on time, and become so hyper-focused on just trying to catch up. So while yes, your quarter life crisis is a fun buzzword that coincides with making big decisions in your mid-20s, it truly is a psychological experience for all of us. I mean, why do you think I became a coach for 20-somethings? Or why I end every episode with the same sentence of this being the most confusing decade? There's a lot that takes place in your 20s, and it is incredibly overwhelming and disorienting trying to do right by yourself and trying to keep up with your peers. And it leaves you with the thought of, what am I even doing with my life? Which is why I want to also remind you that my show notes always have things for you to help with these existential crisis thoughts. Now, I already mentioned checking out my TEDx talk, but here's what else you'll find in there. If you're ready to see what coaching is like with me, then click the Let's Chat link. If you want 3 free, easy steps to stop spiraling as you hit your quarter life crisis, then there's a link for that. And if you want to check out my course on how to make adulting suck less, well, there's a link for that as well. I'd like to think I'm a bit of a genius when it comes to breaking down the roller coaster ride that is your 20s into these very easy, bite-sized perspectives and actions. So step 1 is listening to me yap on this podcast, and step 2 is go check out those links. I don't do it for my own health, I do it for you. And they're filled with helpful 20-something aids. So enough of me trying to get you to do something that I've created for you. And let's get back on topic with your quarter life crisis. This is something that is sparked by massive transitions, or the need to make a massive transition. Graduation, breakups, first job, moving to a new city, There's just a lot of newness that occurs. And then when it levels out, one of two things happen. Either you get bored and crave more newness, or you've realized once the dust settles that this isn't actually the life you want to build for yourself. And for the first time ever, your roadmap is non-existent. Where you spent that first 18, if not 22 years of your life with a very clearly defined, here's what's next plan for you, and then that disappears when you enter the real world. Not only that, but your prefrontal cortex hasn't even fully developed while you're left to make these big life decisions, which your prefrontal cortex is the executive functioning part of your brain. That's the part of your thoughts that's capable of making big, thought out decisions and foresee any potential consequences that could come with what you choose to do. This is also the place where impulse control is managed, emotions are regulated, and your ability to plan. It's all right there. And the fact that you're out in this world making your own decisions without a fully developed one is wild. So that when it finally does develop at 25, you are able to be more present in your life and have a better ability to decipher what's working and what's not. Also, at this point, you've learned a lot more about yourself and who you are outside of your parents' control. So the life you originally thought you'd have or path you'd take no longer fits the you've been discovering over the last few years. Like how I thought you're supposed to go to school, pick a major, and follow that career path until you're 65 years old. Under my family's influence and through examples, that was what adulthood was. And when I realized I didn't like it, I then challenged my own thoughts with just suck it up. This is the way it's supposed to be. The pandemic broke all of those standards down for me and gave me this unexpected time to explore what kind of life I wanted to do for myself. And that's when I started to make some changes and started to plan for my future that would include these changes. I was 23. I do joke that the whole quitting my job and moving to Charlotte at 25 was me taking quarter life crisis to a whole new level. But really, I planned for about a year and a half before I actually picked up my whole life and moved. And it's because I learned more about who I was that comes with being in your 20s and experiencing a global pandemic that flipped the whole world upside down. It's where I learned that the corporate world doesn't care about you. You are totally disposable, or that you feel like a prisoner chained to your desk when your time is no longer your time. And I personally didn't like that. So I did something about it. Statistically speaking, 75% of people in their 20s experience some sort of quarter life crisis. That's in the form of leaving a long-term relationship, changing careers, going back to school, and or moving somewhere new. So my experience is not original, and newsflash, neither is yours. And that's good news. So let's dive into what your quarter life crisis actually means. It means you're growing. And by that, you're outgrowing boxes you were previously confined to. Your values are forming, experiences are altering your identity and perception of the world around you, and you're pushing back against the life you thought you were supposed to live. A life your parents and maybe other family members lived before you. I think this unwillingness to settle for the life exemplified by other generations is especially true for today's 20-somethings because the pandemic showed us options to different lifestyles that are possible. There's hybrid work, fully remote work, self-employment work. We realized how important it is to live a meaningful life instead of a default one because life is short and you only get one of them, which is what your quarter life crisis is pushing you to create for yourself. So long as you don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing via social media. Seeing the girl from high school buy a house, or the guy from college prepare to have his third kid, or the person you barely know get promoted, or the girl who looks like she's traveling all the time. None of that is helpful. It actually distracts you from being able to think for yourself because it encourages you to make decisions based off of someone else. So I guess the real question is, now that you know the psychology behind the quarter life crisis and why it happens, what do you do with this information? Because it's really easy to make an impulsive decision, say fuck it, and justify it with, it's my quarter life crisis. But not every thought or decision needs to be acted on immediately or at all. Instead, I want you to take some time and get curious around these thoughts instead of critical of your current reality. What if you weren't behind or doing anything wrong? What if all of these thoughts were like a scavenger hunt that you could uncover one clue at a time as more information presents itself? Really sit with your thoughts and turn them into questions that you get to go find the answer for, not through somewhere else or someone else, but with yourself, with taking different actions. Which feeds into the second point of knowing you don't need a whole what's next plan, just a what's next step. I didn't quit my job and move to Charlotte on a whim. I planned it out. I knew I needed a change. I knew what that change was going to look like, and I took the necessary steps to make it happen. I didn't know what my life in Charlotte was going to be like or how long it was going to take to feel financially secure. I just knew I was on a mission to get out of corporate and do what I love in the form of helping people. So for me, step 1 was decide to move to Charlotte. Step 2 was getting my coaching certification. And step 3 was begin working with clients. Point number 3 is talk to someone to help you externally process, not for advice, just to think out loud. This is so crucial when it comes to the executive functioning part of your prefrontal cortex, solely because you're just not that good at doing it on your own until you reach your later 20s. Most of my clients just need to talk their thoughts out to better understand what to do next. And when you talk it out with someone who has your best interest at heart, you also minimize the distractions the rest of the world is trying to throw your way to change your mind or make you doubt your decisions. When my clients work with me, I actually help them lean into the impulsive decisions that are coming up to make a big change in their life. And this is for 2 reasons. The first one is your brain is communicating to you that something isn't working. Your first thoughts to light your life on fire and start over might not be the actual answer you're going to seek out, but it is very telling that change is on the horizon. We just need to figure out what that is and why it's coming up. Because you could hate your job, but do you hate the work you're doing or where you work? And that'll determine if a career change is what's next for you or simply a workplace change. The other reason why I help my clients lean into their thoughts is because that's a lot of the work I do as their coach. Your brain is going to fight change even when you know deep down you want it. So I help with the planning and feasibility behind the change so that you do feel confident in the decisions you're about to make and make the change feel way less scary. Which brings me to the last part of this episode I want to touch on, and that is whether or not you should end up acting on your quarter life crisis thoughts. Because I did, my friend is about to, and I've helped my clients do so with changing schools while they're in college, moving back to be closer with family, changing jobs, starting businesses, leaving relationships, all the things. The question is, should you do it too? And my answer to that is it depends. I think if you're a female listening and you get these heightened thoughts at certain times during your cycle, then you need to listen to these signals and trust that this means it's time to devise up a plan. But for everyone listening, male or female, ask yourself if the impulsivity you're feeling is coming from a reaction, whether that be fear or discontent, or from a moment of clarity. And that comes from patterns, not one-off scenarios. If the thoughts keep repeating themselves for more than a month, but really for more than 3 months, then it's a pattern and it's time to act. But if it's a big thought coming off of a shitty week or two, then it's a reaction. Your quarter life crisis is a signal. That does not mean it's a green light for you to act on. Just start to pay attention to what's working and what's not. My itch to change course in my life came long before the changes actually took place. And like I said, 75% of 20-somethings get this itch at one point or another. So, taking from the wise words of my TEDx talk, you're not special. You're just adulting. Think of it as, congrats, you're normal. You're on track to find your own solutions to building a life that you want to live in, which is the premise of the work I do with my 20-somethings. Let your thoughts encourage conversations that lead to actions with friends, with me, with someone you trust. And then take those things one step at a time to make it so, which is how I'm going to end this episode. So, if you liked what you heard, are currently in your quarter life crisis, or know someone who is, then please, please, please share this episode. Post it to your story, send it to a friend, give me a 5-star rating. Check out the links in the show notes. Just do something that will help me reach all of the 20-somethings navigating the most confusing decade of their lives. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.